Welcome guys to Lockie and Lukey. Today we are fixing the windscreen wiper motor.
Okay, so there's a short in the wiring. All these wires are decayed and it's shorting whenever the car's got power on it. I can see smoke coming out of the windscreen wiper mechanism, so I'm dismantling it now, trying to keep track of all these different wires. I think I'm going to have to manually test them later and figure this out, and I don't know if I'll be able to resurrect this unit or I'll have to somehow get a replacement. Okay, so today I'm working on the windscreen wiper motor. I noticed that some smoke was coming out of the wires, so I've rewired it all up. It actually is a 3-speed, but it's only ever been actually running as a 1-speed. Originally someone had wired it up to only run at the slowest speed, which is fine. I've just rewired it up again to the slower speed, so basically instead of having like 6 or more wires coming out, I've been able to pare it back down to 3 wires plus an earth, which is what that earthing cable there. And it actually has written on it, 1, 2 and 3 speed. So I've simplified the wiring. There's an earth and then these. I have to test which is which now to get it working, but I've just taken the cover off and I've just reattached the armature that sort of has a little peg. So if you're ever working on one of these, you actually need to lever this up and off, and there's a pin that goes in there. So if you're trying to pull it to bits, make sure you lever that out. That comes off, and then you can take this off too. This joint just pulls off and you can separate the two. The rubbers were all perished, so I've just made up my own rubber mounts there. I've just poked holes in some rubber that I've got from Bunnings and made up my own vibration rubber mounts. I'm just going to add a bit of grease into this before I reseal it. So I'm just using all-purpose grease. Just making sure there's no holes in my gloves before I do this. And just repacking it all with grease. All the sliding mechanism, the gears. It's a bit hard to do one-handed, so I am a bit messy with this. But yeah, just so everything can move along nicely. So that's now got grease in it. And that arm sort of pistons back and forth and turns around here, so there's like a worm gear there that goes from the motor, and it makes that go round and round, and then it pulls the wipers back and forth. So yeah, fingers crossed I've done a good wiring job. I'll have to test out all these wires and how I can make them connect to 3. A lot of them I think are superfluous. So yeah, that's where we're at.
We have greased it and now we're putting the case back on.
So these little guys that you'll see, they almost look so cute that you'd think they're decorative, but they actually are real little bolts holding the case down. And the size is a 1/4, if you're looking for what size. Now if this end down here doesn't go on, it means you haven't seated in that bit that I showed you before. Has to go in and it goes into the hole. If you haven't done that, you won't be able to put these down because it'll be sticking up too far. So make sure you do that. So that way when you do this one, it goes flat and flush. If not, you're going to end up bending the cover and causing all different kinds of issues. So just make sure you've seated that correctly before you do this step. These are 12-volt wire motors. Oops, dropped my little spanner. And I think they have a name, a Lucas generic name, DR3. There it is, DR3. So there's all different kinds of DR3s, but that's the kind of wiper motor that is, if anyone's interested. Tighten all these down, and I think there's a lot of I think maybe MGs and Minis and Jaguars or whatever that use that sort of Lucas type parts would probably share similar wiper motors to this. They might have some that have more speeds than others, but you could probably figure out the wiring and just choose the correct wires that match up to whatever your switch and controller is. So now that's done, I've got to tighten up this. I didn't memorize what type of size these are, so fingers crossed. Just trying to remember. So if I'm inverted, I would be turning that way, which is this way. It's hard doing things upside down because I always feel like I'm turning it the wrong direction. So if I'm underneath, I'll be turning it that way. So yes, this way. All I've done is cut up little squares of rubber and poked holes in them with a screwdriver, and then shoved the original fitting through it because the old rubbers were all squished and not very good. All I'm doing is tightening this up so we can cut away for a bit while I just do this boring bit, and then we'll see you soon. Okay, so for this next bit I need to test which wire is which here, and to do that I'm going to use a voltmeter, and it's a DC mode, and I need to turn the car on and simulate turning the windscreen wipers on so that we've got something to test. Car's on, and technically it thinks that the windscreen wipers are on, so now I can check the voltage of these various wires. Okay, let's see if I can put that there. So this is meant to be positive ground, so let's try that and just test the first one. Nothing. 4.5 volts there. 12 volts there, so that, let's have a look at what wire that is. So that's this one, so this green one's important. Red one didn't appear to be anything. Let's just double check. I'm going to put my probe back into the red one. sure I get some metal. It's only 4.5 volts. I'm not sure what that's used for. This one is much higher, the green one, so that's looking like that's useful. What's this other green one? I have to unwrap some of these. So we know the big chunky green one is live. I shouldn't have done such a good job wrapping these up because now I've got to unwrap them. I've got no nails with the gloves. Okay. And some of these are probably used for the other speeds, but we're not using the other speeds. So let's try this one out. Other green. I think technically I should be able to just earth this and get a voltage. Let's just see. That's 12 volts as well. So both greens are 12 volts at the moment. They could almost be the same thing. They probably were originally. It's probably just come out of the back of that. Yeah. Let's see if it's happy still. Yeah, so two of these greens are the same. Okay, let's try it the yellow. Not sure what the yellow's for. Okay, yellow. Get my earth wire, which is a positive earth on this car. It's 12 volts too. Everything seems to be 12 volts, which is interesting. And this one here. I don't know why we've got so many 12 volt circuits off one thing. It's like someone took all the speed modes and just wired them all together. So I don't think we even technically need to use all of these. Get one of these out. Now I've got to be careful because this is live, and if it touches the body, I'll end up sparking. So let's get this one. See if this one's live as well. Okay, 4.5. So these are all 12, and the only 4.5 is the red and the brown. So these two are 4.5. I'm not sure what that's about. One of these wires might require the 4.5. I'm guessing. Let me double check. If these are both 4.5, they probably belong in the same holster. Yeah, 4.5. And this one. Oh, I've done the wrong thing there. I need that, and that, and that, and that. And 4.5. So I think it's pretty safe to say if these are both putting out 4.5, they can go together. So I'm going to put that inside there. Since they've got the same voltage anyway when it's live, there's no point having them separate. It's not doing anything separate. 4.5. Okay, so we've got 12 volt on the green, 4.5 on the red. What was this one again? I've forgotten. It's 11.85. 12. Okay, so that one's also alive. I don't know why we've got 3 lives on 12. I'm gonna have to figure all this out. Okay, so let's just start by cleaning up this earth strap here. It's a bit of a mess. I'm just going to chop it off and refinish it. It's got a lot of loose wires. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to put some sheath on it. So it's earth. I'm going to get the green ones for earth. Which earth is actually positive, but I'm just going to put green. So I'm going to put one on there. just a few twists before I do, because it's going to be hard later on. And this will end up going into our little wiring block here. That's just so we don't have random contacts. It's earth anyway, so most of the car, like all the metal of the body, is earth anyway, technically. So we don't need to be too pedantic about that one. Now I'm going to put it into the earth spot, which is here. Okay, now I'm just going to get some spare wire and test out which of these wires actually does something. Okay, so now I'm just going to test out the various wires that we know are live. I'm going to get this out of the way. I should have done that earlier. So I'm just going to do trial and error here. I'm going to put just a loose wire in here, see if the windscreen wipers go. Nothing. 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 So that's still not so great, but nothing on all. I'm not sure if one of these 3 wires also likes to be negative or earth. Oh, something made a noise then. So yeah, not sure what's going on there. Still no movement. I'll have to maybe try the other one. That didn't like that. Didn't like that. So it's not liking that one. I'm not sure what's going on here and which each wire does. No, so none of those did anything. I need to just check we didn't blow any of the fuses, because it made some clicks. Could have been a regulator. Give that a break while I check the fuses over here. Just turned it off for now. If I knew the wiring of that, it would be a lot easier. I did blow a fuse. I blew this fuse out here. So I'll have to put a replacement. So it didn't like that. I must have crossed something over then. So just one fuse blew there. And that one's fine, so it's just the one. Okay, I'll grab another fuse. So luckily when you own old cars, you keep a little stash of fuses. I've got some homemade ones with wire, using like wire out of like a house fuse box. And I've got regular ones. So that looks like the right type one there. So I'm just going to put a fuse back in. There we go, problem solved. going to be a little bit difficult to figure out the wiring for this one. So it's going to, might have to do some more research and finish it another day. I'm not 100% sure of the wiring diagram as yet. Oops, I'll put that back in front. Pick these up for next time, including this because I may make my own fuse out of it later. Okay, so until I can figure out the proper wiring sequence for this, I'm just going to make sure that I can cap off each of the loose wires so they don't cause any fires or anything. So I'm just going to make sure this earth is all the way in where it should be. Get this one all the way in there. Yeah, so these, I'm not quite sure what's going on with these 4.5 volt ones, etc. So I'm just going to put something over the edge of each of them just to keep the wiring from sparking. I think so. I'm just going to shove this one all the way in, this one all the way in, just make sure. Okay, and that one, just maybe put a little bit of a cap over the end of it for now, so it doesn't touch any of the bodywork and short out. Little cap for you. And now those ones are pretty much capped, except for that little bit there I'm not so happy with. So what I'm going to do is see if one of these big ones will fit over it. Let's see if I can get this over it. Just for now. Just so it doesn't touch anything. Just shrink back that one there. Yeah, so these ones now, see, well, you know, they're not going to be touching anything, shorting out anything. So that's fine for now. And we're going to sort that out after I do a bit of research into the wiring of this. So I need to figure out what these wires are, what these wires are. Spend a little bit more time. I don't want to just keep blowing fuses. Once I figure out how this wiring works and how this wiring works, come back to this and have another go at it. But that's it for now. At least we've got this back in and connected to the windscreen wipers.
If you guys want to see more Lockie and Lukey videos, like and subscribe and come back for part 2. Toodaloo!